Good evening, everyone. I'm Miley Liu. Welcome to our program entitled Brush Fires Touch Everyone. As we head into the hot summer months, we are undoubtedly going to be faced with a greater risk of brush fires or wildfires. In fact, most of us have unfortunately probably come to expect these like clockwork every summer. A fire gets started in a certain area, someone calls the fire department, they respond, put out the fire, and that's the end of it. Well, tonight we're going to be finding out why that's really not the end of it, and how wildfires, no matter where they are, have an impact on each and every one of us in ways you probably never even thought of before, and how it's in our best interest to help prevent such regular occurrences of these wildfires in Hawaii. Tonight I'm joined by members of the Honolulu Fire Department, the Honolulu Police Department, the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, the Board of Water Supply, and the American Lung Association of Hawaii. Before I bring our guests out to talk tonight, I want to let you at home know that we are live in the studio, so we're going to be encouraging your comments and questions for us. And I'll be giving you the phone numbers in a few minutes when we open up the phone lines. But first, we have a few video clips to show you to help you learn more about wildfires and the problems we face because of them, and to learn about what is known nationwide as the Wildland-Urban Interface program, an educational effort nationwide. We'd like to show those video clips to you now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
He protects all living things in the forest. But he can't do it alone. Please don't play with matches. Put out your campfires. And never, ever forget the words of Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
This is a job for the fire department.
This is a job for a wildland fire agency.
Both these statements are true, but only up to a point. The Wildland-Urban Interface areas exist wherever homes are nestled among trees and vegetation. Whether in large urban areas or remote rural locations, these interface areas exist all over the United States. Fire protection in interface areas is not the responsibility of only one or two agencies. Every fire affects the entire community. When wildland interface fires occur, community services are strained. Natural resources are damaged or destroyed. Jobs, civic pride, and even lives are lost. The issues of interface fires can't just be pushed into a corner and ignored. Such attitudes isolate one resource from another, and there is no cooperation to solve the growing problem and threat of wildland urban fires. This program looks at 3 communities in which attitudes are changing, where wildland urban interface fire protection has become everyone's responsibility. Planning interface fire protection and prevention can't be left in a corner someplace. Each level of government and ultimately every citizen shares the responsibility for both fire protection and fire prevention. Every community must identify the potential problems of interface fires, define the roles of various agencies and individuals, develop public support, secure interagency cooperation, and begin to implement, coordinate, and evaluate specific programs.
Hello, I'm Don Marsh. What follows is a special tribute to all the dedicated firefighters who spent several days fighting that conflagration in Oakland, California. We hope that the sights and the sounds give you a true perspective on the magnitude of what they faced. When duty called, they truly took the heat, and we salute them.
Rekindles are under control for the time being. It may not hold. We have extreme wind conditions, and now would you notify Battalion 3 and Battalion 4 to select a flatland engine company, one battalion, and have them start a patrol procedure along the skyline area in their respective battalions. Mike, I'm down at the bottom of the hill here. We got big problems.
Transmitting a box,
What you're looking at is a view up the canyon complex to the top of the hill at Grizzly Peak. And right at the top by the water tank that's in view there is the point of origin where we had firefighters up overhauling hot spots from the fire the previous day on Saturday. It was one of our engine companies and a regional park engine there overhauling when suddenly a fire just burst out of the unburned area right under their noses.
Yeah, Oakland Fire Department, do you have an emergency?
This is an emergency at 916 Rio Way in Montclair.
And what is the emergency?
It's a fire.
It was a firestorm like I have never seen in 38 years in the Oakland Fire Department. I've never seen anything like it before.
AN2 Command.
Command.
Yeah, Don, it's just the big flame is just crumbling in the pine trees on Marlboro. AN2, we have companies here. We have companies above it. They're forestry with an 1.5-inch line. I have no idea what else is there.
Mr. B, today we've got a structure fire blowing back down the hill. Quite a jump bucket now, any minute. You're giving us a 6-alarm assignment. I'm requesting mutual aid, 5 engine companies to Grizzly Peak and Fish Ranch.
Seems to be creating its own wind now. The fire. Now it's coming over on this side, so chances are I'll be getting out of here pretty quick. People are still heading up towards the town. I don't quite understand why they... Alright, I gotta go. My wife's yelling at me.
The wind was whipping, the wind was blowing the fire in all directions. It was coming. One minute it would be coming from one direction, the next minute there would be a clear spot where you could see. And we just couldn't, you know, the wind was so directional, I mean, moving all around all the time. I remember looking and trying to gauge how long we had at that one spot before we had to bail out, and I checked periodically, and I was off by more than half of my estimate.
There was definitely some dramatic footage we've just seen over the last few minutes. I want to welcome you back. If you're just joining us, we're learning about wildfires tonight and the problems we face with wildfires and what we can do to help prevent them. And I'm joined by 5 individuals from 5 different organizations tonight, and I'd like to introduce them to you now. We first have Sergeant Frank Fujii. He is from the Honolulu Police Department, Information Resources Division. Welcome, Sergeant Fujii. Next we have Dr. John McDonnell. Now he is on the Board of Directors of the American Lung Association of Hawaii.
That's correct.
Welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
We next have Mr. Pat Costalis, and he hails from the Division of Forestry and Wildlife in the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Welcome. We're followed by Inspector Albert Salvador, and he, of course, hails from the Honolulu Fire Department.
Thank you, Wiley. Glad to be here.
Welcome. And we last have Mr. Arthur Ayu, who's Community Relations Specialist with the Board of Water Supply.
Hi, nice to be here.
Well, I want to welcome all of you for joining us tonight in the studio. And the first question I want to throw out there, which some of our people at home who are watching may be wondering, you're all from different organizations. We're coming together and we're talking about wildfires and the problems that we have. Is this, I know you've been out in the communities, going to shopping centers, going to schools. What is it that has motivated you to come together, and even tonight, and talk about this? What's happening out there?
Well, you know, we feel that, you know, we have these fires all the time that happen every year, and we thought it would be a different approach where we could all get together in different agencies and work together. I mean, the way it is today with society, you know, just one department is not good enough. You know, people think that brush fires, wildfires, fire department responds, put the fire out, and that's it. But I think we just can't do it by ourselves. We need the support of different agencies, and that's the reason why we have this panel here tonight, so we could make the people aware exactly what is involved as far as handling the wildland fires. So I think Patrick has some input that he could probably say.
Oh yeah, Miley, we've been asked what this Wildland-Urban Interface issue is, and the National Fire Protection Association defines it as an area where development meets wildland fuels with no clearly defined boundaries. And when we look around us today, especially here on the island of Oahu, we notice that there has been a lot of developments that now abut wildland fuels. Throughout the islands, the state of Hawaii, we've had similar growth, being that we're blessed, I think, with a wonderful climate. We've always had a housing shortage, of which we're trying to catch up with. And with the decline of the ag industry, we're seeing a lot of conversion of land uses where the development is now encroaching on wild land. So we have that phenomenon where the potential does exist for major problems facing the city and county of Honolulu. And like Al said, no one department can do it alone. I can certainly say the same thing about our agency. We're a very small agency. We're not as organized as people may be familiar with in or on the mainland. So we need partnerships. I think when you see the video on that Oakland clip, you notice that there were a lot of entities involved. It wasn't just the structural fire. There was the wildland fire community. Certainly there was the police community. And when I look at all of the smoke plume, I mean, the secondary smoke does affect people. And when I see the firefighters out there just using gallons and gallons of water, I had to only think about what we're faced here with our limited supply, especially on island ecosystems.
I guess
that's the reason.
We can get into more, I'd like to get into more individually about you know, where you're coming from, the perspective that you bring. But before we do that, you were mentioning about how with the development, the lack of housing, how this all impacts the fact that we have more and more of these interfaces between wild land and housing or the urban areas. That's just going to keep getting worse, right?
Well, we have you know, the way it is today in society, we have a lot of people that are getting away from the city life, kind of want to get out into nature and put themselves in this intermix and interface where they get into Mother Nature and it's nice, get away from the city life and stuff, but they don't realize that they're putting themselves at risk. So hopefully tonight we could bring out this information and how to take care of yourself out there, because you are at risk. And as you've seen in the video, we don't want to wait till something like that happens here in Hawaii. So this is why we're here today, to sort of make aware of people exactly what's in store if
what's
they're not
involved.
prepared. Involved.
Well, it seems that it's almost prestigious thing, you know, to be able to live out in more of a rural area. It's something people want more to do, and you see the houses coming up and every bit of land on top of a mountain or wherever it might be. So it's going to continue.
Nationally, it's been determined that at least 1/4 of the population lives in rural settings. However, a larger proportion of people live in this wildland-urban interface. You can understand that in rural communities where they probably do not have the type of protection we enjoy with Honolulu Fire Department here, it's really urgent for them. But when we think of the wildland-urban interface, and with the growth that we're experiencing here, the fire department, you know, and we are concerned because the area coverage does increase.
Right.
And so, you know, with budget constraints, we have to do, I think, partnerships, and you know, you're gonna hear that a lot tonight. So we feel good in that we've in the early stages we've been watching the phenomenon, and we've been trying to network out to see who we could find to help us. And certainly it's everybody's responsibility. It's not the agencies or the organizations. It's the individual homeowners that have responsibilities.
Well, let's get into then more to hear from your perspective, what is it that you bring to the table as far as this partnership? How are you impacted? Say, Arthur, if you start us off with the Board of Water Supply.
Oh, the Board of Water Supply? Well, we're responsible for managing and operating the municipal water system for the island of Oahu. We've been basically doing that since 1929 for the city limits of Honolulu. And then we combined forces with the suburban water systems in 1959 and been operating island-wide since then. Well, of course, water is a real important part for fighting brush fires. And a lot of people don't really realize that we're actually on a finite system. I've got some diagrams here that I bought just to help us, educate us about our water cycle. If we take a look at the one that I have on the right, it's just basically a schematic of the island of Oahu. And basically we all know that the ocean evaporates water moisture up into the air, forms rain clouds. The trade winds push those rain clouds to the island. And as those clouds reach the island of Oahu, our ko'olaus actually are the perfect heights to help those clouds rain. And we collect an average of 2 billion gallons of water every day on the top of our ko'olaus. And about a third of that water is what actually percolates down through the porous volcanic rock until it reaches either watertight compartments in the mountains or our underground aquifers. And a lot of people don't really realize that it takes 25 years for water to percolate from the top of the mountains till it reaches our underground aquifers where we pump it up into pipes and into our homes.
It's a long time to wait.
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, and now that we're approaching the summer months, normally we don't experience sufficient rainfall. We kind of bank on having wet winters to store up a bank supply that'll carry us through the summer.
I guess people aren't accustomed, we live on an island, we're not accustomed to thinking that we could have a water shortage, and we have had them over the years, I suppose, with water rationing and whatnot, but just, I guess on a regular basis, our mindset isn't to think that there is this finite amount of water, and we really have to take care of it and not have to use all of it to fight fires in the wildland or in the rural areas.
Exactly. Just some statistics. A fire, say, in Leeward, an average use of water would be 5.4 million gallons for one fire.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think
a lot of water.
That is a lot of water. And it taxes our supply heavily.
Well, it's given us something to think about when we see that next fire. Inspector Salvador, do you want to shed some light? Of course, you're from the fire department. Tell us more about what it's like from your perspective.
Well, like Arthur said, we depend a lot on water. I mean, that's the only way we're going to put these fires out. But the thing that we'd like the community to understand is that it costs money. It's very expensive. And in our part, if we can make people understand and maybe change their attitudes, and maybe tonight as they go through the panel of discussion here, they can realize that it's just not just the fire department that's going to be involved. And we need the water to extinguish the fire, but yet, a lot of times these fires are maybe caused by arson for no reason, and we'd like to have people sort of take heed to that and be a little more aware of what's involved as far as all that water that's, sometimes we get shortage of water too, right out there. I mean,
making a greater effort to help prevent them.
That's right, yeah. And, we like to use the water in more important things like, if a house that's really on fire or a structure fire, not spending all our time out in the mountain dropping tons and tons of water out there.
Right. Right. Because we have to prioritize,
right,
and when
exactly.
these things happen, we can't. You have to go out and put the fire out. Pat, would you share some thoughts from the Division of Forestry and Wildlife?
Sure, Miley. We'd like to continue the stewardship legacy, I think, that was started way back when during the monarchical era, when King Kamehameha III had in the Constitution written in provisions to make sure that nobody touched off the forest with fire. I think he recognized the value of the watershed then. The first territorial forester, his name was Ralph Hosmer, also made a bold statement saying that the most important product from the forest is water. And, you know, in that light, I think we need to realize that when fires do start, whether it's from this Wildland-Urban Interface or purely a forest fire, it does major devastation. First thing, like Arthur said, devastation of the watershed, and the implications there are great because when you wipe off that forest cover, first thing that happens when it rains, it washes down into our stream. It contaminates and pollutes the stream bed. It ends up in the ocean. You know, it looks nice and blue, but it's the cumulative effect.
Right, right.
You know, there's compromise of air quality besides stream quality. So there's a lot of things that are associated with fires besides
and not to mention the fact that all the things that get killed as a result of the fire.
That's right. Yeah, we have to understand that the forest is the habitat for many, many things. And, you know, personally, I have my own biases, but I think our life support systems depend on the forest because there's an old Hawaiian proverb that says, rains follow the forest. And there's a point to be made about that because when you burn off the forest, you have a warming cycle. When you have a warming cycle, there's less chance for the rain to precipitate off the coal house. So it's all tied together.
Right. Dr. McDonald, you're here from the American Lung Association. What can you tell us about the health implications?
Well, we come in when people get involved, not only certainly the people who are burned, but when people inhale the smoke that comes from the fire, either from the things that are burning, and we're not ever sure just what is all burning. There are many different variables that go up in a wildland fire. We do know that secondhand tobacco smoke, for example, has some 4,000 chemicals in it. Some 43 of those have cancer-causing agents. We know that across our nation, about 3,000 healthy American non-smokers die every year from the ill effects of secondhand tobacco smoke. That's not to say people who actually smoke.
Right, right.
In the state of Hawaii, we lose about 1,120 Hawaiians every year. At least that was the number for 1991, just from people inhaling tobacco smoke. Now, we don't have studies exactly on the wildland fires, but we have studies on secondhand tobacco smoke and on cane fires, and we know that there's things that go up in those things also that can be harmful. So if we can take that inferential data and make the leap to what humans are inhaling, I think it's inherently obvious that these things are dangerous, and we would like to stop people from smoking any, or inhaling any smoke whatsoever.
Wherever it comes from, right?
Exactly.
Sergeant Fuji, if you could briefly tell us as far as the police department, how you're impacted.
Sure, the vicarious effects, when there's a brush fire, we need to respond to it. Things like traffic control, if the fire gets out of hand, and evacuation. But I think the biggest component that we didn't mention, real briefly, we have representation from 5 agencies here, but the biggest help we need are from the people, the viewers out there. You know, the agencies can't do it. We can't do it by ourselves, folks. We need your help.
Great. Well, that's a good note to end on. We do have some footage that we'd like to show you from some local fires, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. So these are from fires right here in Hawaii.
Oahu's brush fire epidemic on the leeward coast has prompted the Honolulu Fire Department to launch a new program to educate people about brush fires. The program is called WUI, or Wildland-Urban Interface, to teach youngsters that people and wildlife are hurt when brush fires are set. Fire Captain Glenn Solom says the leeward coast comprises only 26% of Oahu's land, but it is responsible for 79% of
We just want
Oahu's
everybody
fires.
to have a safe year and a safe summer coming up. Grass is going to be getting dry, the brush, the vegetation is going to be getting dry, and we want everybody to be aware that we want to try and keep all of these problems to a minimum.
Federal firefighters were also on hand to entertain youngsters and teach them about safety while letting them play in fire trucks and even dress in some gear.
There are about 1,000 brush fires in Hawaii each year, and fire officials say that number is rapidly increasing.
Carelessly discarded cigarettes, campfires, fireworks, all these kind of things created by man create a lot of these problems.
But officials say a high number of brush fires are maliciously set. According to the Insurance Committee for Arson Control, arson fires accounted for 43.2% of all fires reported in Hawaii in 1992. That resulted in $5 million in property damage. Those figures and a string of recent brush fires have prompted members of the Honolulu Fire Department to get out and educate the public.
Well, people playing with fires, we're going to have to go to rescue people. It's a lot of work.
We like to create a public awareness and educate the community on how brush fires actually do touch everyone in the community. It's not a simple matter of bushes burning in one particular area and the firefighters in that area going out to put the fire out. There's a lot of environmental issues, there's health issues.
And the fire department encourages the community to take an active role in preventing arson.
Like I said earlier, calling 911 right away, taking license plate numbers, taking good descriptions of people you see in the area. If you have a camera, maybe take a picture of them.
Fire officials say the concern over brush fires is increasing because more and more people are moving to rural areas where mountain and hillside brush fires occur more often. Officials point to California, a state that suffered $727 million in fire property damage in 1992.
We've been very, very fortunate here in Hawaii. We've been lucky, lives-wise and home-wise.
Jody Leong, News 4.
This large brush fire is not very far away from a cluster of agriculture and plant businesses, the closest being here at the Great Outdoors Plant Nursery. But there are two main reasons why the owners are not quite as worried as you might think. That's because, first of all, we have a fire department tanker truck right there ready to blast water on any flames that come close to this property. Second, over here we have a concrete drainage ditch, which should act as a buffer to keep the flames on that side of the canal. Plant nursery owner Leanne C. is feeling more secure as the fire slows down and she sees firefighters all around. She sends her workers home, but she stays, knowing a change in the weather could be tragic.
I'm most scared for the houses. The nursery can be redone, but it's just a matter if the wind shifts and comes down back on us, then we're all in trouble.
The weather remains favorable, and the fire is almost out. How it started is unclear. Some neighbors say maybe it's the work of some young troublemakers who've been destroying property in this area.
They could just come out there, throw a cigarette butt or anything like that, I don't know.
The fire department has a brush fire awareness program in the works. It's designed primarily for residents of Oahu's brush fire capital, the Leeward Coast. But it appears there is also a burning need for the program in Hawaii Kai. Dave Carlin, KGMB 9 News.
Hi, welcome back. Tonight we're learning about wildfires, and you just saw a number of fires that happened here on the island of Oahu. And I want to ask the doctor now, we saw a lot of smoke generated by those fires. Can you get into more detail about really what do we have to worry about here?
Yes, again, the American Lung Association doesn't have direct studies on wildland fires, but we do know that the inhalation of any smoke is probably harmful. It's intuitively obvious that if you're going to inhale this stuff, which we know causes terrible disease in humans when they smoke tobacco smoke. I have in my hand here a graph that shows a normal section of a normal cut lung of someone who passed away from other causes. I'm highlighting that with my highlighter now. But when I move over to your right, the side of the lung, this is a section of someone who actually died from inhaling tobacco smoke. This is actually emphysema, which is another problem that inhaling tobacco smoke causes. Now, in addition to emphysema and these toxic things that people that happen to people who inhale these things, we have approximately 60,000 asthmatics in the state of Hawaii, if we assume 5% of a population of 1.2 million. And that takes us to another condition that people go into an asthma episode or an irritant spasm reaction to the inhalation of a noxious substance. If I can direct your attention to the graph we have over here that shows a section of lung. I'll highlight it with my lighter over here. This left side of this poster is a schematic diagram of a bronchial tube with the air sacs here that are nice and healthy. If you look at this side and then go to the other side of that poster, you'll see that three things have changed. First of all, these muscles around the airway have spasmed to something like this. The second thing that happens is easy to see if you, in your mind, cut the bronchial tube in half and look down the tube up towards the sky, if you will, to see of course, blue sky. What we're trying to show here is that the bronchial tube has an inner lining and an outer lining. That inner lining of the airway can actually swell up to something like this, which is a reaction that's an inflammatory process. All of these red dots are depicting an inflammatory invasion of cells. And then after that, these cells produce this mucus, or gullah-gullahs as we call it in Hawaii. And that's simply what asthma is. It's really not a magical or mystical thing, but this happens to people who inhale noxious or toxic substances. For example, an asthmatic inhaling any kind of smoke. Again, we've got 50 to 60,000 Hawaiians, residents of Hawaii, who have this condition, and they're susceptible or at risk to go into a severe episode of this when they inhale this. That's not to mention, in addition to the smoke itself, we don't know all the other elements that might be in that smoke.
Right, what other things might be burning up and that we might be breathing in.
Yeah, so again, we don't think that an inhalation of smoke of any kind is helpful. It's probably harmful, and we'd like to see people not do that, and people should remember that that's another problem, not only the damage that the fire itself causes.
Right. Well, some of our folks at home may have questions, and I want to give you the phone numbers now. It's on your screen. And if any of you do have any questions or comments for any of our guests, they come from a wide variety of backgrounds, and we're talking about a lot of the different impacts that wildfires have on their agencies and us as individuals. I encourage you to call us here in the studio. Can you share with us more about some of the wildfires? We saw some on the news, those news clips. What's really been the history of wildfires in Hawaii? I have to tell you, I just heard the story last week that there was this lady, she's in her 70s now, and she was saying when she was younger, they used to set fires just for fun, because it was fun to see the fire department come up and put out the fire. It was exciting. And that may still happen today, but you know, she's in her 70s now. But this must have been going on for a long time then, I understand, and over the years.
Yeah, well, wildland fires, brush fires has been around for a long time. I mean, every year it's the same old thing, in and out. And it's kind of true what you just said, Maya, about people finding it fascinating to start a fire and see the firefighters respond, and they find it kind of exciting. But as you see in the video, you know, every year we have thousands of wildland fires all the time, and most of these areas, especially during the summertime, is probably out in the leeward area. I think in the leeward area, in the Waianae area, I think they're the most busiest station as far as responding to these wildfires. And so hopefully this program will be continuing educating, and maybe this is a stepping stone that we could do something to address this problem. We realize that, you know, like we said at the beginning of our presentation, that, you know, we just can't do it by ourselves, but maybe we can put it to the ear, maybe the government or the city or something. We could start a program where we have some cities have this arson investigation where they can go out and actually determine the cause and prosecute. I mean, I think right now, I don't think we have such a thing. You know, it's not, it's just, the attitude is like it's just wildfires out there and it's not really property damage and things, but maybe we could sort of change that, and probably Pat can probably say something towards that part about that investigation.
Do you think that most of the wildland fires are arson? Or, I mean, because there doesn't seem to be adequate arson laws or regulations. Are they most of them?
Well, you know, through the community, you know, there are people who see, you know, others see people are actually starting these fires, and it goes as far as getting these flares and throwing it in the bushes and deliberately setting these fires off, and it happens all the time, and it's an ongoing problem, and I hope that we could probably
keep our eyes and ears open more.
Eyes and ears open, and like Sergeant Frank Fujii says, you know, it's the community out there, or even the people out there in the community who's watching this program, need to band together, and there are a lot of concerns out there. They're tired of seeing this place, especially in the leeward area. Every summer it's the same problem.
Right.
So hopefully this program would sort of make people aware, and there are people out there who cares, and they need to kind of band together, whether through a neighborhood watch program or getting to your neighborhood board or addressing your concerns to your representative, council, whatever, and maybe we can do something and address this problem, because it's every year, every year we get the same old problem all the time, so we need to do something.
Well, what's been really helpful to hear tonight is really to understand the impact beyond just that community.
Exactly.
Because it may happen out there physically, but we're the ones who suffer when we don't have enough water or, I mean, we all have to care about this.
Right. It's
not just that community.
And if we can just make one more point, I think, Miley, you mentioned that the 70-year-old lady said that it was fun. I hope there's nobody out there watching this evening that thinks that creating a fire like that is fun. It's anything but fun.
Right.
Once the fire gets out of hand, we have men and women who need to go out there and battle that
and risk their lives.
And risk their lives.
Really. It's serious, very serious.
Not only that, but the risk is not only for the community that the fire is involved in. The vicarious effects that I started mentioning about before we went on break was that the depletion of sources or resources. If we take half of the fire units to fight a brush fire, and you take all the police officers in one area to maintain traffic control, what happens to the other calls for services? We seriously jeopardize the entire community safety.
Right.
Yeah, people don't understand that, especially with the fire department, where if we have all our trucks concentrating, like say a good example on the leeward side, I think a few weeks ago we had 30 somewhat trucks out there. I mean, that's a lot of trucks out there, and people don't understand that when you have a real emergency where, fire department doesn't just respond to fires. They do medical, they do auto extrication, and if they need our services, or structure fire, they need our service, our response time is going to be delayed.
Right.
People don't understand that.
Because everything is focused in on that one area.
Focused in that area. I can see if these wildfires is threatening homes, and we got to be there. But most of these fires are out in the mountains, way away from the homes and stuff, and we spend hours, and people don't realize the cost of it. It's very expensive to have your firefighters and your trucks out there. I mean, it's like a truck, like a fire department with 5 men on a truck is like thousands of dollars, and it's very expensive. And you have 30 trucks out there, so gee, that's a lot of money. I'd rather see the money going to something more important, educational purposes.
Right, like why we're here tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have someone joining us from our viewing audience. We do have a phone caller. Hi, thank you for joining us tonight. If you could let us know where you're calling us from tonight. Hi, caller. You're there. Are you there? Okay, I think we lost them, but hopefully they'll call us back. Now, getting back to that drain on resources, that's a realistic thing that's happening out there right now, and it's just worse during the summer months, I suppose, when it's more dry. Is that true?
Resource drawdown, it's not, only certain agencies, it's all of us, because we're focusing. Of course, life safety issues or scenarios gonna receive a lot of attention, so we have to depend on each other to find out what resources are available. In the past, it's been difficult trying to figure out who has what. I think we're at the level now using different command and control structures so that we both understand what is available and how they should be prioritized. Earlier in the program, I talked about how blessed we are to live in Hawaii. Everything seems to garden out green. Well, the same phenomenon, is almost like a firefighter's dilemma, because he sees all of that fuel growing.
Right,
and you got to understand that in the fire environment, there are certain risks. There are people. And when we look at statistics, most of our fires are human caused. There are few recorded cases of lightning fires starting, but the majority of them are human caused. And that's why you have community relations and prevention. We also have certain hazards. We have a lot of fuel out there and values to protect. So, with all of those, all of us try to work together to try to address that issue.
I want to get back to our phone call. I think they've rejoined us again. Caller, thank you for joining us. Can you let us know where you're calling us from tonight?
I'm calling from IL.
Hi, and do you have a question or a comment for us?
I just have a question, like, how do they determine how the fire started, whether it was done intentionally or not?
Okay, our caller would like to know how do you determine whether it's an arson or just something that was sparked by lightning, or how is that determined?
Well, we have investigators, fire investigators, who can go out there and these people are educated. They go to learn how to detect and look for burn patterns and look for evidence as far as how the fire started. And they go in there and they have to dig around and look around and find out what would have caused the fire. They could ask questions, you know, if there was any witness or anybody who have seen anybody deliberately setting the fire. And more than likely, you have people who probably sees an individual who started the fire, and they can do the investigation from there through getting some information and doing what they need to do.
Would you say in general that we've been pretty lucky here in Hawaii over the years in terms of loss of life and loss of structures, in spite of the fact that we have these things happening all the time? Have we so far been pretty lucky?
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. You know, as you see in the earlier part of the show, in the show on that Oakland fire, here in Hawaii, we're very fortunate that our companies were able to respond in time, and our main concern is as firefighters is protecting the lives and property of others. And so, if we had to go to a wildfire fire, and if it's near the homes, we would probably set up there and protect and just let the rest burn, you know, and protect the homes. Yeah, it makes more sense.
Yeah. If you do determine something to be arson, then I knew you were going to mention something about that earlier.
Yeah, as far as arson investigation, we're in the process, I think, of trying to get another series of classes going, because I think fire investigations is an art. It's actually a mixture of an art and a science, and it takes a special kind of talent to be able to read the signs to show what caused that particular fuel to burn. So we're hopeful that in the future that we will have a cadre of people available to do wildland fire investigation.
As well as the laws to back you up.
Laws to back you up, right?
In cooperation with the police department to really determine.
Yeah. Right.
Well, we have a, talking about the police department, a 911 tape to show our folks at home now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes after this 911 tape.
I'm Major Robert Prosser of HPD's Communications Division, and this is Captain Mark Greenwell. What you see here is your lifeline to both the police and other emergency services such as fire, the ambulance, and other agencies standing by to serve you.
What happens when a person calls 911?
If you call 911, a separate operator in a different room will call the appropriate emergency units. If it is the police department, you will then be connected to a call taker trained to extract information from you. This is important. The call taker will ask you questions that may seem unnecessary, especially when you're the one in the middle of the crisis. But I assure you, these are valid reasons for these questions. First, the call taker needs to know what the circumstances are so that an effective evaluation can be obtained. Second, your location is very important, especially if there are injuries. Many callers are nervous, excited, crying, or experiencing other forms of emotional problems. So stay on the line as long as possible. Remember that the call taker can't see what's happening. They have to visualize what is occurring by the information that you pass on.
What happens when you play on the phone when calling 911?
Never play on the phone calling 911. People who really need help may not get through because you decided to have some fun. Even if you don't say anything and hang up, we'll first make an attempt to reach you by calling back. Then if no contact is made, we'll have to send an officer to your location.
But if I've already hung up, how will you know where to send the officer?
So we have what is called an enhanced 911 system. Whenever you make that call into the system, your location and address will be printed out on a computer screen.
As you can see, your calls are important to us and they do make a difference. So when you have a problem, call us, 911, and together we can make our community a safer place to live.
Hi, welcome back. We just saw that tape on 911 procedure, and we have a phone caller who's been waiting during that video, and we'd like to welcome you, caller. You're on the air. Can you let us know where you're calling us from tonight?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, I'm calling from Waianae.
Hi, welcome. And do you have a question?
Yes. My question revolves around enforcement of fire breaks. We have brush all over the area in the leeward coast, likewise in the Hawaii Kai area. And my question involves how do we get enforcement for government, private sector, landowners, federal government, city, state. There's property out here that has high brush that is a threat to homes and the community. And if fire breaks were made, the response for fire trucks and men personnel would be lessened, because these fire breaks would pose as or negate the factor of having the homes or people in trouble from the fire. Okay. And there seems to be no control as far as getting people or government or whatever to maintain these fire breaks.
Okay, thank you for your question. Can we expand on that then, about the fire breaks in these particular areas the caller is asking about?
I can heavily relate to what this caller has said about it. You know, it's an ongoing problem, and the way it is now is if a house is close by to these areas with this wild brush that's threatening a home, what our Fire Prevention Bureau does is if a request or a complaint is made, and we send an inspector out there to check it out to see who belongs who belongs to that property and who owns it, and have them clear it out. I know that especially in the leeward area, there's a lot of wildfires, wild bushes out there and growing. And what we say is that hopefully this program will probably start something where we could get more enforcement as far as the government is concerned. Yeah, maybe this program is like a stepping stone where we could get all agencies involved. But as the way it stands now, that's what we're doing, is letting people know that you need to make a fire break, keep it at least 20 to 30 feet away, be prepared as far as if you're threatened by a fire. And
well, I think we'd like to get into more about what people can do to protect themselves and help prevent that.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, we do have another caller waiting, and we want to thank you, caller, for joining us tonight. Can you let us know where you're calling us from?
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Somebody else.
What can we do for you?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, I'm calling from Kailua, and I would like to ask the doctor what a person should do if they've inhaled smoke. I assume call 911, but let's say while you're waiting for help, or perhaps if you're with someone who's inhaled smoke.
Well,
Thank you.
What do you recommend, doctor?
Well, certainly, whenever one's exposed to smoke, one should use the usual precautions to get down, get below it as much as they can. Try and stay away from it. They could use a handkerchief or something to shield themselves. Then, depending upon if they have asthma, there's a regular routine they should know and have in place what they do when their symptoms start to go into what we call an asthma episode. I won't elaborate on that more. I think that's a simple but a real answer and a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
With the high number of asthma sufferers in Hawaii, it's a real issue.
That's exactly right. Well, one of our mottos at the American Lung Association of Hawaii is that you should choose not to be a victim of your asthma condition. You should know what to do and be prepared for it. I think the basic principles I elaborated before are something we all should remember.
And it seems what we're hearing tonight is a lot about prevention, whether it's prevention in terms of your health situation or prevention in terms of your home, your community. We're going to get to that, but we do have another caller who's joined us, and we're happy you're with us, caller. Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling us from tonight?
I am.
And what can we do for you?
Okay, in a brush fire, who is the first to respond, the police department or the fire department? And what kind of duties do they carry out in order to protect the community?
Okay, who responds first then, police or fire?
Well, if it's fire related, when you call 911, if it's a fire related, you're going to ask for the fire department, right?
Right.
So we're going to be probably responding, but all agencies like fire, police, and ambulance, we monitor each other's calls. So automatically when the fire department is responding, police is also responding. Yeah. And if somebody's injured, ambulance will respond too. So we kind of work together on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a real cooperative effort.
A cooperative action.
Like we're seeing here tonight.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, we are coming down to the closing moments of our show, and we really do want to let people know the kinds of things that they can do to help prevent this from happening in the first place, and what to do in the event that it does happen in an unfortunate circumstance. So if you could share with us your thoughts for our folks at home in terms of what they can do, what they should be concerned about as members of the community. Arthur, would you like to leave us with your thoughts?
The Board of Water Supply, our statement lately goes, "E malama I kawai," take care of the water. And it's just that it's so important that, such an important part that the watershed or the wildlands play in our water supply, that we don't need it being burned up. So if we could protect our wildlands so that it would keep our water coming to us as we need it. And another interesting thing is that part of our educational programs involves a water management of your garden, of your yard. And lately we've been hearing a little more about xeriscaping, and we have available classes and information through the Board of Water Supply, and that can actually prevent fires in the interface between wildland and urban areas.
So your classes will help people know how to landscape their yard in the best way to help protect themselves and prevent this situation from getting out of hand. Great. Before we get to the rest of our guests here to share their final thoughts, we do want to take our last phone call. Thank you, caller, for joining us. Where are you calling us from tonight?
I'm calling from Kaneohe.
And do you have a question?
Yes. I have asthma, and in the 4th of July and New Year's, does that mean I can't go outside and play with my friends with the firecrackers?
Firecrackers generate a lot of smoke. What do you recommend for our caller?
Well, if you want me to handle it from the asthmatic point of view, we think that you can be exposed to fire and be around campfires, but you need to do some basic things. You need to always remain upwind of the fire and to practice the safe use of fire. Children should always be accompanied by an adult. I think that I can ask the fire people about the effects of sparks and things on causing wildland fires, so perhaps I'll defer to you.
Must be your least favorite times of the year, I would imagine.
We want to let the people out there in the community that fireworks does cause a lot of fires out there, especially in the dry area, especially in the leeward area. So we want people to be very cautious, and we encourage people to attend places where they have these professionals that set them off, and taking that and watch it. But here in Hawaii, it's hard. It's like a tradition, everybody with fireworks. But hey, if you're going to play with fireworks, think about the safety measures about it. Do it in a place that's not going to cause any fires, and take the preventive measures, and be aware of it. Hopefully, what we have here tonight in the program is a start that we're going to do something about it, and maybe get some more responsible people to handle these fires, and have these everybody work together kind of thing. Right?
Well, I definitely hope so.
Yeah,
hope so.
Make a safe community out there, everybody,
Patrick, your final thoughts?
Sure. Again, the stewardship legacy. We have too many values that we should keep valuable. One fire, we can lose it all, because it can happen to you. It's everybody's responsibility, so we need to prevent those wildfires.
Well, we saw what happened on that Oakland tape. I mean, that whole community was just devastated. Did they determine how that had started?
The Oakland, it was a fire that they had, as they mentioned in the film, they were doing mop-up or overhaul, but some of those things smolder, and you can't always be there. When the conditions are right, it happens. And that's a function of fire behavior.
Unfortunately,
yeah. People need to understand. They need to change their attitudes, as far as fire safety is concerned. It is an important issue, and you should think about it all the time.
Oh, we have so much to take care of, so we really should. Doctor?
Well, from the Lung Association's point of view, we think two things. First of all, there's no safe level of a cancer-causing agent that you should be exposed to, and if that's included in smoke, you shouldn't inhale it. Second thing is, our motto is, when you can't breathe, nothing else matters. And for years to come, we have a simple number that people can call. It's 1-800-LUNG-USA. That's our National American Lung Association of Hawaii number. The call is free, and people are encouraged to call. We're here.
Great.
We're happy to answer the questions.
1-800-LUNG-USA. Well, that's easy to remember. Good. So if people have any other questions we didn't get to tonight.
That's exactly right.
Sergeant Fujii.
Well, basically that prevention of any sort, be it a fire prevention or crime prevention, which is the area that I concentrate on, people need to realize and understand that prevention starts with you. Unless you actively participate, prevention will not happen, pure and simple. The government agencies have gotten together, we've band together, we formed a coalition here, we call it the Oahu, and the government has said we're going to work together on this Wildland-Urban Interface project, but we need the people out there in the community to help us. The gentleman who called from Waianae, who talked about fire breaks, you know, we have community policing and neighborhood watch programs where the communities become actively involved in eliminating causes of crimes. Things like derelict cars, whatever it may be, druggies congregating in an area, they go on neighborhood walks. You know, I see no reason why communities cannot band together and take care of the communities, join forces with us and go out there and make the fire breaks before the fires start. Prevention starts with you, the people watching out there today. We can talk to a blue in our faces, but unless you help us, we're not going to be able to do it.
Everybody has to understand that, you know.
Well, yeah, and we've got, you are working together and you're a perfect role model for us in the community to realize that we need to work together too. And if anything we've left people with tonight is that it is all of our responsibilities. You representing your organizations, us as individuals in the community, and that it's not in someone else's backyard. Either way, we're the ones who are going to be affected. I want to thank all of my guests tonight for joining us here in the studio and helping us learn more about wildfires and their prevention. Thank you all for coming. I hope all of you have enjoyed the show, and we thank our callers especially for tuning in and calling in and sharing with us your questions. We appreciate all of you watching, and if you have any further questions, you can contact the Wildland-Urban Interface program. And we thank you for joining. Good night.
Engine 46 standing by. Kimo, we're 308. Bring your engine out on the street. The fire is beginning to run down the road.